Welcome everyone. I'm Lauren Rosencrans, co-chair of PUB. As a reminder, this is a meeting of community volunteers tasked to advise council on items related to the Water Bureau and the Bureau of Environmental Services. Under Portland City Code and state law, the Portland Utility Board is holding this meeting electronically. Board members and relevant city staff are attending remotely, electronically, or by phone, and the city has made it available for the public to listen to the audio broadcast of this meeting. The public will have an opportunity to provide comments during the public comment portion of the agenda and can also provide written testimony to the board by emailing utilityboard@portlandoregon.gov. PUB believes and acts upon anti-racist principles. In our meeting spaces and interactions with PUB, while every person has the right to share their personal perspective, we stand against wrongful conduct, particularly any conduct that is targeted toward people that are made vulnerable by systemic inequities. This means stepping up as a community when there is wrongful conduct and fostering a space of learning and growth. By putting our principles into action, we are active and deliberate. We speak up and speak out. Each person is empowered to maintain the culture of the Portland Utility Board, and we focus on the impacted individual or population, condemning the conduct, not the person.
Hi, my name is Amy Archer-Masters, and I'll quickly run through the meeting guidelines. Please state your name before you speak, and if appropriate, who you're addressing. The chat box is only viewable by the co-hosts, myself and Jonna Lynn. Please limit chats to technical and logistical issues, including signing up for public comment, asking for technical assistance, or reminding us if you've been waiting to speak and have not been called on. The raise hand function is primarily used by the board during discussions. We may lower your hand once you begin speaking in order to maintain the flow of conversation. During public comment periods, public can raise their hands and you'll be called on when appropriate. If you're connecting by phone, you may need to press *9 to raise your hand. Videos may be turned on when speaking. If desired, it is not required. Please mute your microphone when you're not speaking, and if connecting by phone, you may need to press *6 to mute and unmute. Public comment will be taken during the comment period early in the meeting. You can sign up through chat with myself and Jonna Lynn, or raise your hand during the comment period, and we will put you in the queue. It's also available just prior to any formal board vote after a motion has been made and seconded by board members. This meeting is being recorded. I'll pass it back to you for the agenda.
Thanks, Amy. So we are going to start with a call to order and disclosure of communications. We will discuss any public comments and hear any public comments and review the minutes. We are expecting a presentation on the filtration update, followed by discussion, hopefully reviewing and adopting the bylaws if we're approved. Looking at discussing, editing, trying to get the work plan and annual report finalized, and then we will finish with announcements about the next pub meeting before we adjourn. Okay, this is a moment set aside for any voting board members to disclose any communications with city leadership or bureau staff regarding items that could relate to pub's work. Are there any items that pub members wish to disclose? Okay, not hearing anything. I think we're okay to move for public comment. As Amy mentioned previously, you can use the chat box to sign up to give public comment or before any formal vote. I believe we are anticipating some comments.
Yes, we did receive requests in advance, and I believe Kate K is in the room. So if you want to unmute and begin.
Thanks. Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Thank you so much. Hello, pub members. My name is Kate K. Thank you for the opportunity to provide public comment today. The following comment addressing all board members will only take a few minutes of your time. I'm an independent journalist and researcher in North Portland. As part of my personal work researching and reporting on use of algorithmic systems by Portland government, I recently published what appears to be the first and only independent investigative analysis of Portland Water Bureau's Smart Discount Program pilot. As members of the pub know, the Water Bureau is testing a smart discount program, an algorithmic segmented pricing method for automatically determining levels of water bill discounts assigned to customers. I want to bring the findings of my report to your attention. The Smart Discount Program raises several important questions about pricing fairness and pricing discounts in government services, as well as questions regarding use of automated algorithmic and machine learning systems to make government policy decisions. Algorithmic pricing systems have come under scrutiny recently by elected officials in Portland, across the country, and elsewhere around the world. In fact, in Spain, the country's Supreme Court just ruled in favor of an investigative journalism outlet, forcing the government to grant them access to the source code of an algorithmic system used to automatically determine discounts on electric bills. In other words, use of algorithmic pricing and discount systems by government deserves oversight and inspection. I want to make clear that I'm not suggesting there is something inherently problematic with the Water Bureau's project. Instead, the goal for my research is to highlight a real-world use case, one that could serve as a blueprint for practical implementation of city and utility tech use policy. I won't go into much detail about my investigation, which can be found on my website, redtailmedia.org, but I will list some top takeaways of the research, and more can be found in a comment letter that I'll provide to Pub. As a reminder, the machine learning system behind the Smart Discount program is operated by a private company called Service. So some top takeaways. The discount levels assigned by the company could fluctuate and even lower existing water bill discount levels. Portland City Council approved the software pilot through a non-competitive, non-bid process. A slide deck that I uncovered in my research from Service indicates it may charge Portland Water Bureau a 7% cut of bill payments it helps the Bureau collect. There are also important data use and privacy implications, which are a real key focus of my research throughout my career. In order to function, the external service system will connect to and exchange customer data directly with the Water Bureau's billing system. The Water Bureau agreed to share confidential customer data with credit reporting and data broker company TransUnion as part of the program. TransUnion was actually hit in July by a massive data breach. It's not known whether PWB-related data was exposed, though. There have been no privacy or algorithmic impact assessments of the Portland Water Bureau pilot program. And it is not clear whether PWB and Service established a data sharing agreement, which is an important component that should have been established. The Water Bureau's discount pricing plan could be a good thing, but no matter what, it will use an automated process to change water policy. Portland Water Bureau customers deserve the genuine transparency and accountability that comes from independent assessment of the program. An assessment today could create a solid foundation for evaluations of other more high stakes algorithmic and AI use by city government, including by utilities. I appreciate your time and consideration of this research, which can be found at redtailmedia.org. And again, I'll send a letter that'll have a little more detail. And I'm happy to discuss the research now with pub members or in the future. And thanks so much for your consideration.
Thanks, Kate. Appreciate your input. Amy, is it kosher to comment or ask questions?
Yes, if you have follow-up questions, you can. There isn't an expectation to. It's also something that you can discuss when you're planning future agendas if you wish to address it in a future meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to say I don't have a question specifically right now. I just wanted to say thank you so much for bringing this to our attention, and it's really helpful. And I would be interested to see more information. I was able to pull up quickly the article that you wrote, but I would like to see more details if you were already planning on sending that to us. That'd be great.
Absolutely. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Kyle, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Seconding Kyle Chipman, voting member. Seconding what Lauren said, that I'd like to take the time to both read the article. Also, we did have a presentation from Director Light on the Smart Discount Program last year. So just also reviewing the previous presentation and then pulling also from your formal letter, your formal submission for comment. I am most interested in thoughtful your flagging of the absence. This is not about outright malice. It's about thoughtful anticipation of subsequent algorithmic or AI directed actions at the municipal level, and how can we can be thoughtful now, can help forecast unforeseen downstream complications. So through that prism, I'm excited to dig in deeper, and thank you for bringing this to all of our attention.
Thanks. Yep. Thanks for pointing that out. And I just want to note, actually, my report mentions the Portland Water Bureau's presentation to Pub. I used that as information in the research.
Great. Good to know. Thanks. Alexis, go ahead.
Hi, Alexis Strife, voting member. Just thank you so much, Kate, for coming and for bringing this to our attention. And I'll echo what my fellow board members have said about looking forward to digging in a little bit more. My one immediate question is on if you've also shared your findings directly with the Water Bureau.
Yes, absolutely. I attempted multiple times to get comment or interviews with people at the Bureau and came up dry. They did not offer any ability to speak with anyone. I did have some communication with a public, a PIO, with the Bureau. But other than that, and that was just via email. I think I might have talked to him on the phone once. But they were pretty reluctant, it seems like, to speak with me, despite having multiple opportunities and multiple outreach from me. So, and of course, after I published this story, my report I published in June, and I did notify them of the publication.
Great, thank you.
Any remaining comments or questions for Kate?
Lauren, I don't have anybody
Thumbs
else
up.
signed up
Thumbs
in
up, Lorraine.
advance.
Go ahead, Lorraine.
Lorraine Wilson, voting member. I just want one clarification. Kate, thanks for coming forward. Public involvement is important for ensuring that communities are heard. To clarify, you said you based your research on the presentation?
Oh, just only in part. My research was based on records that were obtained through public records request
Oh, okay.
leading to the program, as well as an abundance of other research, publicly available videos and things that were related to. There's a whole backstory here about how this the Water Bureau's pilot kind of evolved. And so a lot of the research is really just looking back at how it came about. And so there's a bunch of stuff that's publicly available that was used in the research, as well as, again, FOIA public records request documentation that I attained. And, while I'm actually talking about that, I'll mention that the Water Bureau charged me what I would consider a pretty exorbitant fee to provide me with 4, maybe 5 documents, which that is actually detailed in my report also.
So,
Just an aside, it's not a main takeaway, but
so all your reference material is formally referenced in your report?
yes,
Okay,
absolutely. It's
wonderful. Thank
all
you.
available. Yep. Mhm.
Okay, thank you, Lorraine. It looks like we have Daryl and Jenny also with questions. If we could just keep these brief, just because we have more public comments that we would like to get to, and we can prioritize future discussion. Absolutely, please ask your questions, and then maybe we can move on shortly. So Daryl, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Again, I share the same gratitude as my members here. Uh, Thanking you for bringing this to our attention. I guess for brevity, I can send you the questions I kind of drafted that you may want us to be asking of the Water Bureau, and I guess if you could just run by it and maybe add any sort of gaps that I may have missed, that'd be helpful to me and I'm sure the rest of the members so that we know what we're already receiving from the Bureau in terms of uh, what data sets they're sending us and what they may not have available or haven't provided to us yet.
Sure, I'd be happy to assist with that.
Great, thank you for your input. Yeah, it's sounding like we'll definitely want to make time for further discussion in another meeting, so that's good to know. Jenny, yeah, go ahead.
Yes, hi, Jenny O'Connor. Kate, thank you for your your comments. I'm wondering if you covered the sort of rollout. I know the SMART program rolled out before they started in with this algorithm. I mean,
Right.
it's been going on for a while. I just wanted to make sure that you covered that history, what was going on previously to this, evolution of the algorithm.
Yeah, so so my research looks at the whole all the information that was available to me regarding the pilot process, which, my research shows that it started with the algorithm not being developed yet, right? They did an initial stage. And I'm pretty sure that the presentation that Keisha Light gave to you guys probably detailed that. So there's, my report, as you'll see when you get a chance to take a closer look, it's very thorough and it acknowledges what my research showed and then just what was publicly available about the whole process of the pilot project and like the different stages that either had already occurred or were occurring when I published. So, but if there's a specific question that you had, I don't know if I answered your question or not.
No, you did.
Okay.
And I'll read your report. Thanks so much.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd actually like to jump in before Lorraine asks. I think it would benefit us to move forward and specifically dedicate a good chunk of time when we both prepared and maybe have Kate come back to address more questions. Unless there's something pressing, Lorraine, that you want to get out now?
Yes, it's something pressing. I just want to correct the proper pronunciation. It's Quisha and not Keisha.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, well, unfortunately, I haven't been able to speak with her in person, so I wasn't able to learn that from her, but thank you.
Thanks, Lorraine. Yeah, I think we'll look forward to getting an email and having a few more details, and we can put some questions together and figure out a way to dive deeper in this. But I think if that's okay with everyone, we're going to move forward. I believe we have another comment, public comment.
We did not have anybody sign up in advance, but if there's somebody in the room who is here for public comment, now would be the time to share it, and then we'll move to the presentation.
Okay, well, not hearing any further comment. Thanks again, Kate. And again, we'll look forward to some more information coming our way. But otherwise, I would say, yeah, let's go ahead and welcome Quisha Light, Dave Peters, and Bonita Oswald to present about filtration. Please tell me if I mispronounced anybody's names.
Good morning, Quisha Light, Interim Director of the Portland Water Bureau, and thank you, Lorraine, for that correction and pronunciation of my name. And we definitely look forward to the opportunity to talk more with you all about the Smart Discount Program and definitely clear up some things that were shared today. But today we are here to talk about the filtration project. And I just want to begin by thanking the pub for the opportunity to be here and share this important update with you. Your role as an advisory body is vital to us. Not only are you providing oversight, but I appreciate how you help us think critically about the decisions we're making and the long-term impacts on our community. So today, the team will walk you through the progress we've made on the Bull Run treatment projects. And that'll include construction milestones, permitting updates, financial stewardship, and you won't get everything you want to hear. We're still working through a lot of pieces. But as you'll see, these projects are not only about meeting regulatory requirements, they are also about protecting public health. They're about us strengthening the resilience of our water system, and they're about ensuring that Portlanders can continue to rely on clean, safe drinking water, not just today, but for future generations also. And we know there have been some challenges along the way, from construction delays to cost pressures, and we remain committed to managing those challenges with transparency and accountability. And as we prepare to finalize the annual report that we're talking with you about today, we'll be sharing it with the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee and the full council in October. Our hope is that we can get your feedback and your insights to help us go back and if we need to go back and make some changes to enhance the report, provide more information where we can. So we welcome your questions, your perspective, your guidance as we continue to do the work. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dave and to walk through the presentation. And then if you have questions, we're here to answer those.
Thank you, Quisha. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. I'm David Peters, the program director for the Bull Run filtration projects. And do I have the ability to share my screen?
Yes, you should be able to just share directly.
Okay. So is that showing up for folks?
Yeah, we can see that.
Very good. So I'll jump right into it then. As Quisha talked about, just have a handful of slides that we're going to provide an overview of our program. Start with just a couple slides on the Bull Run itself, then the project, some annual highlights, and some of the future challenges we're seeing ahead of us, and also a bit about public involvement. So the Bull Run watershed is where our drinking water comes from. And that watershed is located 26 miles east of downtown Portland. And it's a 147 square mile protected management unit, of which about 102 square miles of that drains into our two reservoirs on the Bull Run River. We have, as you can, hopefully the video is showing okay as I'm talking away here, but that gives you a sense, looking at Reservoir 2 here first, that this is a forested area. 95% of this is just mountainous terrain with thick forests on it. And that forest is old growth and second growth forest. So it's a very pristine area. And this is where our water has been coming from since 1895. Flows from there by gravity all the way into Portland. So this is a legacy that was left to us by our predecessors. They had the foresight back in the 1880s to go look for a new water source and water supply, and found the Bull Run River. So that was done by the Portland Water Committee and in the 1880s. And then they created the Bull Run Reserve, and then created the first conduits that brought water into Portland. So back in 1890s, they brought a pipeline 25 miles long all the way in from the Bull Run River into downtown Portland to Mount Tabor and Washington Park. And that system is special because they were able to bring that water to Portland by gravity. And what that means is we're taking water out of the Bull Run River, putting it into a pipe, and it does not have to be pumped to get it all the way to Mount Tabor, Washington Park, Pell Butte, a couple other reservoirs in our system to provide our supply. And so that's a huge benefit from us from a resilience standpoint. Our watershed is closed, means it's a protected watershed that does not have access to the public, and it is protected from logging and recreation. So typically it's just folks that are working in the watershed that have access up there. And so we've been living off this legacy for the past 130 years now to get our drinking water. And with the Bull Run filtration program, we're working to build on that legacy by looking forward to the next 100 years and what our system needs to continue to make it resilient. And that's why we're building a 135 million gallon per day conventional drinking water filtration system. That's being built in eastern Multnomah County on a piece of property that the Water Bureau purchased back in 1975 for water system purposes. Associated with that filtration facility, we're also building pipelines that will bring water from our existing conduits up to this facility and then tie back into our existing 3 conduits. A benefit on the filtration pipeline side is that we're replacing about 12% of our existing conduit system, which the 3 pipes range from about over 100 years old, and the youngest one is 70 years old. We're replacing that portion with seismically resilient pipelines. So it should last us long into the future. So the filtration facility is a regulatory requirement. So we are not in compliance with the long-term 2 enhanced surface water treatment rule. And we are under a compliance agreement with the Oregon Health Authority to install filtration to meet that rule. And so we came to an agreement with the Oregon Health Authority in 2017 under a bilateral compliance agreement to build a filtration facility, and that provided a schedule for completion of those improvements. So it has a timeline of September 2027 for us to provide filtered drinking water to our customers. The reason that was written around filtration is that back in 2017, the City Council chose to comply with the long-term 2 enhanced surface water treatment rule using filtration instead of UV disinfection, despite the higher cost. And that was due to the multiple resilience benefits that filtration has to offer. And I'll talk about those on next couple slides. So, but the bilateral compliance agreement that we entered with Oregon Health Authority, though, is a compliance order. It's not a contract that we have with OHA, and Portland doesn't have the ability to renegotiate the terms of that just because of cost. So that's why it's a requirement for us. This is an overview of the schedule that's provided in that bilateral compliance agreement. So roughly 10 years, we entered a compliance agreement in December 17, working towards completion in September 27. But in the meantime, we met all of the compliance goals. The first one was to provide the planning study and the pilot study to Oregon Health Authority, and we did that in November 2020. And then the next milestone was to provide the construction plans for the facility in October of 22, and we met that timeline also. We've started construction in the summer of 24 and are continuing down that path towards the deadline. So I mentioned the reason City Council chose filtration over UV. One is its excellent treatment for removing cryptosporidium. The removing part is important because UV only inactivates crypto. So that's filtration is a much more robust system to help us meet the requirements of the rule. But we go beyond that and are improving our water quality in several areas. One is reducing disinfection byproducts. So disinfection byproducts get formed when the chlorine we add at our headworks combined with organic matter in our water, and that cause cancer-causing disinfection byproducts. Filtration will help us by removing those organics, and we can use lower doses of chlorine. So we'll significantly reduce that. We are below EPA guidelines now for disinfection byproducts, but will be even better when we're done. One of the greatest benefits of filtration is that it addresses turbidity in our drinking water system. And over the last couple of decades, there have been times when turbidity in our water has been too high for us to serve. So we shut the bull run down and operate our groundwater system. And that happens periodically when we have intense rainstorms during the winter. We've had landslides in the watershed that have stirred up turbidity. And so things like that have caused us to shut it down. But as we look to the future, another producer of turbidity potentially is wildfires. And with climate change, we've begin to see the impacts of fires already. There's a picture on this slide of the Camp Creek fire in 2023 that was within our watershed boundaries. So all of that to say that filtration will remove turbidity and allow us to continue operating at some levels during those times when turbidity may be elevated. And filtration makes us available during those events. The last item here includes corrosion control improvements. So our program actually also adjusted our treatment systems for corrosion control. And so we have been further reducing the risk of lead exposure in our drinking water system. And that will be part of our overall program going forward. But in a minute, I'll talk about the results of that program. So one of the hurdles that we've been working through on this project is the land use. And so we've been working with Multnomah County since 2022 when we submitted our initial application for approval to place the facility at the location that we're at. And both in Multnomah County, we had applications in Multnomah and Clackamas County. Both were approved by November of 2023. Shortly after that, Multnomah County's decision was appealed to the Land Use Board of Appeals by a handful of appellants on dozens of issues. And LUBA reviewed all of that and came back in January of 25, so over a year for LUBA to review this decision. And what they decided was that all the issues they reviewed, they affirmed that the county was correct in the way they resolved them. But there was one issue that they referred back to the county, and that issue was developing a better definition of natural resources. So that one decision went back to LUBA on what they call a remand, and the county had to further go through a review process to develop that definition and make sure that our project met that new definition. And so what that meant is that our existing land use permit was no longer active, and we had to pause construction. So February of this year, we suspended construction. We went through the remand process with the county, and at the end of June, they reapproved our land use application. So they defined natural resources. We met that criteria with conditions, and our permits are now reactivated, and we restarted construction in July. So Quisha mentioned that our action to go to City Council is to take our annual report. So we've been doing these the last 8 years. And this slide was just to highlight some of the highlights of the work that's happened this past year. So I mentioned the corrosion control project. That actually came online in 2022. But the exciting news is that now 3 years of operation, and we're seeing great results for the lead program. We were able to cut lead levels in drinking water by over half. And now we are consistently below the EPA's action levels for lead in drinking water. So that's been a huge success. In June of 24, we began construction on both the filtration facility and the pipelines. And then that was preceded by us, and then in January of 25, the land use was reapproved under the first appeal. And then we have an asterisk there because there has been a subsequent appeal filed on the remand. And I'll talk about that more in a minute. But also during this annual report period, we secured a second WIFIA loan. And WIFIA is the Water Infrastructure Financing and Innovation Act through the Environmental Protection Agency. We now have over $1 billion in low interest, flexible loans from the EPA for these projects. And then below, there's just some numbers about the projects that we were highlighting. There's over 350 craft workers involved in these projects right now. So that's where we were when we paused construction. We've gotten back up to speed and have about the same number out there again now. Those workers, 20% of them are apprentices. So they're young folks that are learning and getting trained and are part of our project, and will be the future of the workforce, construction workforce as we go forward. There's over 150 subconsultants that are, many of these are local businesses, small businesses that are supporting the program. And there's nearly $400 million that are going to women and minority-owned firms that are certified co-bid firms in the state of Oregon. So these two pictures, the one on the left is a picture back in July of 2024 at the beginning of the reporting period. We had just started construction, moving the topsoil. And this is a picture around June. So it was during the suspension before we started work back up. That gives you a sense of the progress that we've made over the course of the past year. So we do have challenges ahead of us, though, on this project. We've mentioned the suspension a number of times as we went through the land use process remand. And that suspension has put pressure on cost and the schedule to complete this work. And so we're working with the contractor now to better understand those pressures and understand the cost and schedule impacts that will come out of that. So that is a negotiation that's taking place that will take some time because as mentioned, we're working with a large organization here with hundreds of subcontracts and things like that. I mentioned the asterisks on the previous slide. There has been a new land use appeal filed with the State Land Use Board of Appeals. So there is some risk on whatever action LUBA decides to take on that appeal. And the positive thing out of this is that an appeal can only be based on this decision, the remand decision itself. So LUBA had affirmed dozens of decisions in the original land use. Now we're just focused on the natural resource. So we have not learned what the appeal actually is yet. LUBA is in the process of settling the record. As soon as that's done, that will start the timeline for the appellants to provide their actual appeal language, and they'll have 21 days to do that after LUBA accepts the record. So other challenges we'll have going forward, meeting land use constraints. We have, with our land use, we have a lot of constraints about being on roads and closing intersections. Part of the reason it takes a while to work through schedule with contractors is that changing the time period of the work because of the delay changes when they'll be working in areas that are constrained. And so all of that detail has to be worked out and takes time. We have risk of differing conditions. We have tunnels that will be starting to bore, a lot of underground work ahead of us yet. We have the potential for tariff impacts, although we're lucky in one hand that much of our pipe that you see being installed in the photograph is American made, but many of the components of some of the buildings and equipment may not be. So we don't know future impacts there yet. And then continuing economic challenges. I don't know about you, but my checkbook's been feeling that a little bit lately. And it's a common theme that we're hearing throughout the construction industry. And just a couple last points. We've done a lot of work with the neighbors in the area and the industry in the area, which is primarily farming and agricultural. And this is a list, and I'm not going to read them, that highlights much of the work that was done to mitigate impacts in the area out there, because we're empathetic to the impact that we're having on the roads and as their neighbors during the time that we're building this facility. Many of these items have been incorporated into what are called conditions of approval when we got our original land use. I've mentioned already, conditions on when intersections and roads could be closed. Those are things that that we worked out with neighbors to put constraints on. And so we spent several years early in our planning process developing these with the neighborhood and are guiding our work as we're going forward. And then finally, another list for you in terms of keeping the community informed and engaged. And this is broadly ratepayers as well as neighbors and others in the area out there. There's been a lot of work, and we've set up quite the information machine, I might say, as we've gone through this. And we provide, we have a project website that has lots of information. But beyond that, we've been doing a lot more reaching out. We do mailings. We have, now that we're in construction, we are doing weekly blasts with impacts to the neighborhood, what people can expect for road closures and types of work that are going on. We do quarterly e-newsletters talking about progress on the project. We do monthly in-person meetings where called Coffee with the Contractor, where our contractors come in and meet with the neighbors, and the neighbors are able to um, talk about whatever's on their mind. We're setting up a construction hotline. So items that neighbors that have issues with construction or things around their house, they'll be able to call directly and get to someone that can deal with that immediately. So there's lots of things that we've done over the years and continue to do during construction in an effort to keep folks informed about what we're doing. So I know that was really fast, and I guess that's all I had to present today. And maybe I'll ask Quisha if this is time to ask questions.
Yeah, no, thank you, David. And yes, we are here to get your questions, your feedback. So please fire away. And I know we tried to provide some balance because we knew we had new pub members and wanted to provide some background for those that are newer. And so this may have been repeat for some who've been here on the pub for a minute.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Quisha. Yeah, no worries. I could always use a refresher, so all good. I think I saw Cormac's hand first. If you came up at once, I'm sorry if I'm going out of turn, but please go ahead.
Okay, thanks so much for the presentation, David. That was very, very helpful. Just two quick questions. First of all, what is the overall budget for the project? And just kind of a naive question, but assuming this was funded by some bond and doesn't have kind of the day-to-day billing impact, is that just little quick snippets on in terms of background cost and funding model would be helpful. Thank you.
Okay. I can start with the cost. The current program budget is $2.314 billion. And that's all the projects. So that's all 3 projects, and that's from the inception of the planning to through the construction. So that was what was approved by City Council last year, 2024. And then bonding, I'll give a brief answer, but I think our finance director is here. But we're from a bonding standpoint, I mentioned the WIFIA loans. So we have WIFIA loans that will cover 49% of the total of that program with the low interest loan rates and flexible terms for repayment. And then the rest will be financed by revenue bonds. And that'll be going forward. But that's about the extent that I know. Was there more to your question?
No, that's helpful. Thank you. And
Okay.
just one quick follow-up. Is there any estimate in terms of what the financial impact was of the delay, pausing the work? Because I know stopping and starting comes at a often substantial cost. Do you have a sense of what that impact was?
So we don't yet. That's what the contractor is currently working to develop. We know how much we spent during that time, but we're working on what were the external impacts that come into play.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Brooke, you're next on my line of questions.
Thanks, Lauren, and thank you, Director Light and Mr. Peters, for that information. I think it was very helpful to hear. I had one question about maybe if it was possible to get some additional context on the grounds or the content of the initial appeal, mostly related to the question of the definition of a natural resource and I guess what the claim of the appeal was centered around. If you could speak to that.
I'll try. So, and what my understanding of what the appeal on natural resources was, the issue that it got remanded back to the county, is that the hearings officer at the time that made that decision said that the language that the county had used on all other projects to date, that natural resources met Goal 5 criteria, were adequate, and we had met them. Basically what Luba said, so these are my words, not Luba's, are that that wasn't adequate for in today's environment. That those goals, that natural resources had progressed since then, and we needed to evaluate that and make sure that it was a newer set of goals that we were meeting from a natural resource standpoint. So, and we had done that, and that we had actually talked about that in our original application, but the hearings officer didn't bring that information into the record that went to Luba. And so, yeah, so we had much of that already worked out and done. We had to make a few tweaks when it got remanded just to make sure we met the new threshold. But that was what it was around. Did that help?
Yeah, yes, very much so. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Cool. Kyle Chipman, voting member. I was taking notes throughout. I have 4 questions. 3 are direct. One's a little bit open. I'll ask the 3 direct ones first. If there's time, I'll ask the open one. My first direct question is, in terms of the second, the LUBA secondary appeal to reinvestigate the natural resources definition, does that put any further delay in current construction?
We don't
while
know
it's being
yet.
deliberated? Okay, you don't know.
So, well, while it's being delivered, no. So we
Okay.
continue construction. There are 2 risks, though. The first risk is that the appellants could ask for what's called a stay. And that would be, while Luba's doing their review, that they would want work paused. The threshold that they have to meet is that there would be irreparable harm if we were to continue work. So that is one possibility. They did not use that or make that request during the first go around. And so well, I can't
Sure. That totally makes sense.
I can't elaborate on the risk there.
Thank you.
But the second item is that as Luba goes through this review now, this appeal review, the 2 options are they can affirm it, the hearings officer's decision, and then we're all good and go forward, or they would remand it back again. If it gets remanded again, that would create another pause.
My next question, which is tied to it, does missing the September 2027 deadline incur additional cost or penalty if we don't hit that completion date?
So we have set up a meeting with the Oregon Health Authority to talk with them about the impacts of that in relation to the bilateral compliance agreement.
Thank you. Next direct question, and just for the sake of the board, WIFIA stands for Water Infrastructure Finance and Innovation Act. Is that funding or that bonding at risk as national budgets are being slashed and pulled back?
We've been asking that question and have not heard that it is.
Okay, cool. My next direct question, and then if there's time, I'll yield the floor if there's no time. I was also digging in, there is the Bull Run Filtration Site Advisory Group. Do you know if the people submitting the LUBA, are there crossover with the people submitting and members of that group? Was that group formed in reaction to the LUBA appeals, or is it like 2 disparate parties, those in the community who want to try to help, those who are submitting these for LUBA?
I'll give this reaction and I'll see if Benita maybe has some better memory of the folks on the site advisory group. But I would say they are members of the site. A number of them are members of the site advisory group. So it's not 2 disparate groups. But the site advisory group, there were some that accepted what we came up with. There were others that didn't. But they did provide input to the process. And as we mentioned, as we worked through the mitigations and the conditions of approval, we worked to take their comments into account.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I don't know if Benita, do you have any other
Yeah, I
thoughts?
can add to that. So just to kind of back up a little bit. So we started the site advisory group back in 2019 to get input from the neighbors about the design and how we were going about this project. Um, when we started that group, there were a number of people, we invited all of the neighbors to be a part of that group. There were a number of them that had said, they sent a letter actually to city council saying that they were not going to participate. It was clear that there was nothing that we could do to make things better. And so there were people that had dropped out of it initially after our first couple of meetings. But there were about a dozen people that stayed on to the group, and they helped us through the design and worked through some of the issues that we thought or that they thought might be coming up with the project. So that we don't meet as a site advisory group anymore. We have the monthly meetings with quarterly. We meet virtually online. And then we have also meetings each month. So the coffee chat, like David was talking about. And so we give all the neighbors an opportunity to bring their concerns because we know those concerns change over time.
Thank you so much for that breakdown. I'll ask my last one. It feels too big. That's all good, but I'll yield the floor. Thank you everyone for the time. In terms of project management, if that's even the right word for a project of this scale, is it being singularly managed by internal city team members? Is it an outside consultant, or is it a consortium of subcontractors who coordinate together in terms of like schedule, when things start, when things stop, and when things move?
For the construction of it?
Yeah, for the construction, like management
Yes.
of construction timeline and logistics.
So the management of the construction work, we have two contracts, that one for the pipelines, one for the filtration facility. Both are joint ventures. So what that means is that two companies came together to form the organization that is the general contractor and construction manager for the construction. On the filtration facility, that's a joint venture of a company called MWH Constructors and Kiewit Construction. And then on the pipelines, it's a joint venture of MWH Constructors and JW Fowler. And so those are the general oversights. And then, as I mentioned on the one slide, they have subcontractors, and there's over 150 subcontractors that they're managing to get the work done. Now, when I first heard your question, though, I think you may have been asking about what we're doing as the city to manage them. So that is a team that's been pulled together, led by the Water Bureau. And we do have a program manager in Brown, a company called Brown and Caldwell. And then we have the support of our designers, Stantec Engineering and Jacobs Engineering. So our team now is a team of members from all of those organizations that are keeping the general contractors, or watching over the general contractors to make sure we get what we want at a reasonable price.
Beautiful. Thank you for all the breakdowns and all the responses to the team. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Kyle, Dave, and Bonita. Moving on, Daryl's got his hand up.
Yes, hi. Thank you again for that overview of the Bull Run project. I guess I just have one question. Most of them have been answered already. You mentioned that in terms of the pipeline, 12% of it will be replacing existing conduit with the seismic resistant pipeline. I guess the main question I have is, do you know where along the project that pipeline would be, or has it already been replaced? And is that more like service lines or like main line that
Yes. So what I was referring to there is we have three large diameter conduits that come down from the Bull Run watershed, And
Right.
they come down Lusted Road here, and then they kind of come across these fields, and one goes down Lusted Pipeline and then Oxbow. So essentially what we're doing is we're cutting those pipes here. Can you see my cursor as I'm
Yes, I can.
yeah, where the screen line is on Lusted Road, we're cutting those 3 conduits there, and then we're reconnecting those 3 conduits along this Altman Road here. And so what I was referring to is there's about 8 miles of pipe, existing conduit pipes that we're abandoning through this section, and all the water will be coming through these brand new pipes through that area. And so in terms of what's been done already, the first work on the big pipes is happening in Dodge Park Boulevard. And earlier this week, I heard they've installed about a little over half a mile, 2,700 feet, lineal feet. And that's the picture we saw on one of my later slides there, that pipe being installed. So that's a 66-inch diameter steel pipe, so about 5.5 feet in diameter.
Perfect. So basically, if I understood you correctly, all of the pipeline existing related to this project will be the seismic resistant pipeline, and the I guess the other pipelines that are currently in use, they'll be abandoned.
Through that section, yes,
Through that
those
section,
old ones will be abandoned. We have to
Okay.
disconnect to make sure we don't have a route around the filtration facility. That's one of the requirements of the Oregon Health Authority. Make sure we don't bypass our treatment systems.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, I think we have room for one more question. And then I think anything else we can definitely submit via staff following the meeting. Yeah, Myra, go ahead.
All right, thank you. I have a comment and then a question. I'd love to provide context as to why the removing cryptosporidium is pretty important. So oftentimes if you're have a healthy immune system, you're able to clear this. But in our community with people who have been affected by HIV and AIDS or are immunocompromised, say they have cancer or have a history of a transplant of their organs, this organism can cause them to get very, very sick. And so I think it's awesome that you're able to help build a system to help remove cryptosporidium from our system. My question, just for my own edification, is in the context of what I'm assuming is acidity to the Bull Run water. Has there been any changes to the acidity over time that increases that risk of corrosion of pipes?
I don't know if I have a complete answer for that. I think the answer is that it's been pretty consistent. But now with the treatment systems that we have, we're able to adjust appropriately as there are changes. So it may mean if we have a bit of a acidity change, maybe we have to dial up the alkalinity to get the balance back. So that's what the treatment systems bring, is our ability to adapt as there are changes in the water quality.
And so how does that, in terms of the pipe infrastructure, how do you choose where to replace that infrastructure?
So that's a really big question. And we have a whole, in this case, it was easy because we chose the location for the filtration facility, and we picked the appropriate points to make the easiest connections. But there's a larger answer to your question that would get into our asset management program and decisions we're making on replacements of our pipes on the whole. So that would be another group that could come in and elaborate on how we make choices on other sections of our system as needed.
Awesome. I'd love to learn more about that. Thank you.
And I want to say thank you for your comment about the benefits of removing cryptosporidium. I mean, that's why we're here, right? We're working to try to make keep our water safe for everyone.
Yes, of course.
Well, thanks everyone for the meaningful engagement. Thank you, Dave, Bonita, and Quisha for being here and giving us that presentation. Seems like we might have more questions your way after the meeting, but we'll be in
Awesome.
touch.
Happy to answer.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I know we're running a bit behind. So we want to, oh yeah, we have not approved the minutes. Okay. September 2nd minutes were distributed. Any proposed changes or corrections? Anything on the minutes from the last meeting? I know I wasn't present, but I did have a chance to review. Made sense to me. Any pub members have suggested changes? Okay, hearing none, I will say the minutes are accepted. Similar question. So bylaws were amended, as they were amended, were sent out in the read ahead materials. Revised draft was reviewed by the city attorney and approved to proceed as drafted. Unless pub members would like to maintain the outdated bylaws, I would entertain a motion to adopt the bylaws as amended at the last pub meeting. Do we have any recommended edits, or is someone ready to move to approve? Go ahead, Kyle.
Kyle Chipman, voting member. I would like to put forward a motion to approve the bylaws for adoption.
Thank you, Kyle. Do we have a second?
This is Alexis Rife. I second.
Great. Thank you. Any further discussion before we move to public comment on the bylaws? Okay, hearing none, I would like to open the floor, or Amy, let me know if anybody messages in with comment on the bylaws as they were amended.
Nope, I've not received any.
Okay. Moving forward then, we could put that to a vote. Let me pull up everybody and I'll just go in order of how you entered the meeting is how we're numbered. So Kyle, you're first.
I vote aye.
I'm second, so I will also vote aye. Lorraine?
Yes.
Mira, or I'm sorry, is it Myra or Mira?
It's Myra.
Okay, thanks. Myra, your vote?
Yeah, I vote aye.
Okay, thank you. Daryl?
I vote aye.
Thank you. Cormac?
Aye.
Thank you. Brooke?
Aye.
Thank you. Alexis?
I vote aye.
Great. And Jenny?
Aye.
Okay, so moved. Good work, everyone. So I know we are a little behind, but we can try to get through working through the annual report and work plan. So ultimately, we want to get feedback to pub staff on the draft with those recommendations integrated. If we're ready, we can vote to finalize the draft, or if there's substantive work, we can identify volunteers and a timeline to keep working. So I'll just go ahead and read through these options. We can approve the draft today with the final edits and submission by pub staff, Amy and Jonalyn. Pub staff and chairs can finalize the document before September 30th if we do have further edits and it's not approved today. Otherwise, we could continue to work on the final report and work plan as a larger group, submit after the September 30th deadline. Alternatively, we could separate the report and the work plan, effectively submitting the final report from last year on time and continuing to work on the work plan with a larger group prior to council work session. Would love to hear everybody's input. Was everybody able to review the annual report? Seems like y'all did some work at the last meeting. Okay. Yeah, Kyle, go ahead.
Thank you, Kyle Chittenden, voting member. I would personally love to see this hit the September 30th deadline, that we're not separating or pushing out or waiting, but it's just clean and done within the expected time frame. Oh, that is a lovely testament to Bob as well. Yeah, only brief window, but man, what a dude! What an incredible human being, and a caring, professional, technical person. I have one item that the only real standout for me, and this is something that like I am focused on personally, and I'm fine acquiescing, not pushing it through the work plan, but I would love to call out as either a bullet point in the executive summary and explicit language in the framework that we call out, which is stating either support or push towards transparency or real-time updates for the movement across public works efforts to establish a unified capital improvement program in order to coalesce asset management across bureaus. That one, both from there was a report last year that was like, this is the most pressing need, and the presentation by DC and Donapal. I would just love to make that an upfront priority with a push towards real-time transparency around the prioritization of investment in our infrastructure. So I saw language like that peppered throughout, but to make it explicit is a goal that I have. Do people feel differently from that, or is that too demanding, too big of a lift for the 30th? Yes, Joanne.
Hi. Oh, I just want to acknowledge, I think I heard this in your comment, but I want to make sure it's clear. So work on a unified CIP is already happening.
Okay.
So if Pub goes to support that, fantastic. But that is something that is already in process.
Oh, cool. So do you think it's in terms of forecasting for the year ahead, don't stress about it. It just can be its own point of focus?
I'm not sure about the timeline, but I believe it should be.
Yeah.
Well on its way.
Phase 3 is into November, so we're like so close to it. It might not make sense to include here. I just am so like, I'm laser focused on that as an actionable path forward that reveals and opens up a lot of interesting possibilities for communication to the public.
Yeah, we think so too.
Cool. All right, sick. I'm fine. I acquiesce then, Joanne. Thank you.
Thanks,
Kyle and Joanne, just adding to that. So this section here is not necessarily even highlighting, projects that aren't happening, but just areas where Pub wants to engage. So I could see that we could very easily work it into one of these existing bullets, like the infrastructure and climate resilience, just a component there to add reference to the Unified Capital Improvement Plan. I did add it into the actual work plan document, or the kind of short summary table, because I think that then is used for tracking purposes on whether we talked about it in the Pub meetings and future engagement. So that was the intent, to call it out specifically in your work plan. But if there's agreement, if other Pub members support it, I could see we could add a statement in here just to engage on the Unified Capital Improvement Plan.
Thank you for calling that out, Amy. That was my heart too. It's like, it just feels so close in hand, but to really call it out, like big potential point of impact for the whole, all bureaus. I have language too I can send your way, just as a snippet that you could wordsmith if you wanted.
Yeah, it looked like we got a thumbs up from Joanne on Amy on your recommendation. So seems like that works out well. Alexis, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to basically say what Amy said, that I think it makes a lot of sense maybe to just include the reference here in the infrastructure bullet rather than adding a whole other bullet, but I think it fits really well in here. And it could just be about ensuring long-term sustainability of utility infrastructure, capital improvement plans, and watershed health.
Great. Thank you for that input. Really appreciate it. Amy, were there key changes that we needed to review specifically today? Or
So I can highlight probably the most substantive changes were to the executive summary. So trying to shift it based on the feedback at the last meeting. So hopefully, I think it's much more impactful with some of the recommendations and the way that we were able to restructure it. So particularly since, the hope is somebody at least reads that one page, at least at leadership levels, and then more details are available elsewhere. Other changes that were sprinkled throughout were either direct in response to things that folks raised or just clean up, adding some language. So and there will still be a few more changes required just in, we keep rereading it and do final edits and make sure that the language is consistent and reconnecting. I think the one piece that, so for the most part, the changes are, I added comments where there were any potential areas of question. So the framing and the way in which we captured that future engagement and the next steps, I did within these major priority areas. So I just wanted to make sure people had time to look at that and make sure that it reflected kind of the important elements that folks felt was important to the forward-looking components of it. We didn't have a lot of conversation about values, so the prioritization of values and or the work plan frames, and whether you wanted to still leave in that framework from the prior years, or whether there was any specific discussion that you wanted to have about the specifics of, given current circumstances, what elements you want to make sure are listed as your highest priorities. So that was one area where I hoped to get a little bit of feedback. And then we didn't receive any additional suggestions or requests for edits outside of the meeting. So the bulk of the changes come from the actual discussion the last time.
okay, that's helpful. Yeah, Brooke, go ahead.
Thanks, Brooke Berhanu, voting member. I just wanted to voice my appreciation for adding the kind of next steps for continued engagement sections. I think those were very helpful in kind of crystallizing the connection between past year's actions and upcoming actions. So, and just helpful for me as well. And then on the topic of the section on frames, I think that they are ultimately they were valuable for me in just in understanding kind of the broader contextual factors that are guiding not only the issues or the values of the board, but also the specific items that are included for prioritization in the work plan. And so I think they are kind of helpful backdrop against the overall report. It might be worth even potentially moving up or earlier in the report to kind of provide that backdrop for people that wish to choose to read the whole thing, but I don't feel too strongly about that movement. But I do think it's worth including.
Great, thank you. Appreciate that. Kyle, go ahead.
Thank you. Kyle Chipman, voting member. I have a question for the entire board, and I'll share first part of my reading of the frames. The framing of this coming year was pulling out basically all the languages of like the board will do this, the board wants to do this, everything that could be actionable. And the one specific question, was it a board member that included the language, the pub will request disaggregated demographic and geographic data to examine service disparities as well as the distribution of benefits and burdens harms? Is that a team member, or is that come out of a previous conversation?
So most of the language that has been integrated into these frames came from prior pub discussions, and individual pub members, who helped craft specific language. So a lot of times it's been questions or focus that has come up through meetings. And so now there's been a lot of changeover in members. So I don't know which ones, were created or wordsmithed by current membership, but we have each year typically tweaked some of that language, and so some of that has been just the interplay of new perspective and feeling like there's an element that was important to add.
Groovy. Thank you, Amy. I mentioned that specific phrase because I'm in agreement with the energy of all of these, what we will do, what we aspire to do. I just very much like the specificity of that course of action. And it roots the preceding. So the preceding element was the pub will strive to understand and address the impacts of intersectionality. And then like, this is functionally how it's executed. So I think just the document as establishing expectations of how we proceed. We don't need specificity in it to set our intentions, but I do like the specificity provided so that we can be thoughtful and proactive in our approach. That's all. So we can do that part offline and over the course of the year, but I like the specificity. Thank you. I have no further comments or edits.
Thanks, Kyle. Yeah, I agree. I mean, we do want to be clear and specific, but also leave room for adaptability, right? So I think you're right. I think over the course of the year, we can take these kind of, vague's not the right word, but broad, I guess, frames and intentions and use them to guide our specific movements.
Exactly.
Right?
And as they're parsed out and pretty clean, then we like subcommittees and prioritization to like do substantive work and proactive work, which is really appealing to me. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Well, we only have a few minutes left. Amy, are you feeling comfortable with these edits? This is our last meeting before the deadline. So I want to put this out there. Returning members and new members, please feel free to speak up. Do we feel like we want to continue to work on this, maybe offline, or does anybody feel like they would like to move to approve? Sorry, I'll ask that separately. First, Amy, how do you feel about the edit?
I didn't want to interject over whether people had feelings. So
okay.
I feel totally confident with the one piece that Kyle mentioned. We can meet the intent of that and make sure that that it's reviewed with you all as we finalize it. So far, I've mostly heard affirmation. So if there's any other sections where people have strong feelings where they want to see some changes, then it would be great to hear that. Otherwise, it sounds like there's general movement towards finalizing it. And then I can pull up sample language if somebody is ready to make a motion.
Okay, got it. Yeah, Daryl, go ahead, please.
Well, Kyle's note just made me kind of want to look over it again. I do agree with maybe and I don't want to put words in your mouth. Maybe you weren't saying this, but I believe we should maybe look for points that we can add some strategic broadness that kind of gives us the flexibility to address concerns without having the Damocles sword over our heads that we said specifically we were going to do this and not that. So I believe maybe pushing the deadline out to maybe the 30th, but no further could give us room to get some of those points in. And maybe we should solidify working to that date.
Okay. So Amy, would that mean that we could send this out for a final review from all pub members with maybe a deadline for their like final review of the document, and then if If
We
so,
can't
Kyle.
do that outside of meetings. So
Oh.
your decisions need to take place in the public meeting. And so there's two things. I mean, again, the primary focus of the written report is the backward looking piece, because the forward looking work plan is an evolving element. And so there's always room in there. And I'm pretty confident that there's plenty of broadness. I think where there are specifics provided in here, they're not limiting, they're examples of. And so the overall categories are still very broad, and anything that you move forward can shift based on any specifics that come out through your discussions or emerging priorities. Now there is another element of so the code requirement that requires it by the end of this month is focused on the report and kind of the skeleton of the work plan. And then there's supposed to be a work session with council. And it's one of the things that I hope the leadership team will speak about when they meet later this month as far as next steps. But I would venture that when you engage directly with council in conversation, that's also another element where you can both provide more specificity or just focus on the broadness and get more specificity from that direct conversation with council. So that's another piece that is in the future hopeful to happen, because I expect something will be scheduled directly with council.
Okay, thanks. That's helpful. And I know we've got some hands raised, but my question was more along the lines of, if we didn't approve today, like, is that something that we could give pub members more time to offer feedback, and then the co-chairs can approve without having to do a full meeting?
Could make a decision that includes those elements, so that you're agreeing to the general form, that any specificity, that the chairs can sign off and finalize to still submit by the 30th. So
okay, I think that makes the most sense in terms of how to move forward. I want to hear everybody's questions first, but maybe keep that in mind, board members, before we sign off today, if you're okay with that plan. But first, Alexis, go ahead.
Hi, Alexis Rife, voting member. That is exactly what I was going to suggest, is that we approve the general form, which I do. I think it looks really good, and considering especially that it's mostly a backward-looking document, and then we will have lots of time to refine kind of moving forward. But if folks want to send additional comments, and then the co-chairs can refine and put it forward before council by the 30th. Then that is an approach that I approve of.
Okay, great. Thanks, Alexis. That's good to know. Lorraine, go ahead.
Thank you, Lorraine Wilson, voting member. I think if it's one thing that the last year and a half has showed us, is flexibility. And since the council is still in that settling state, I think the report as it is, without much specificity, should go forward, and it's always open, because I think if nothing else, the year and a half has shown us that if we look back at what we said we were going to do and what manifested, and we were still able to accomplish a lot of what it is we stated. So yeah, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Lorraine. Amy, does that mean that we need to formally approve the form, or can we just kind of agree as a group that plan that we discussed? Especially after hearing these comments from Lorraine and Alexis and Daryl.
I would suggest, that you maybe make a motion to integrate some of what was discussed in the meeting today with final approval by the chairs and submission by staff.
Okay, does that
if somebody makes a motion to that effect, then that I think can be the formal decision in the pub meeting, and then we can do those final cleanup pieces outside.
Does that still give pub members a chance to do a final review and provide feedback?
Yes, I think as long as you and Kyle agree that it aligns with what was discussed in the meeting and that it's achieving kind of those same goals, then so what we wouldn't want is somebody reviewing it and bringing out, you know, a major significant shift to it that doesn't line up with something that was discussed. That's the only thing that I think you wouldn't want to happen. So
right. But
we'll make sure that
also,
happens.
you know, feedback welcome, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, understood. Yeah, so I think that's the general plan of giving, approving the general consensus of what we discussed today, giving pub members more time to do a final review, and then letting the co-chairs, Kyle and myself, make the final approval outside of the meeting. So I will invite anyone to make a motion for that plan.
Cormac Burke, voting member, I move that we adopt this going forward, the format and structure with the opportunity to provide feedback and final approval to the chairs.
Thanks, Cormac. Do we have a second?
Lauren Wilson, voting member. Second.
Thanks, Lorraine. Any further discussion before we move forward? Okay, hearing none. I know we're over time, so I'm trying to move quickly, but still allow time. So please speak up. Any public comment? Okay, hearing none. Or Amy, have you seen anything in the chat from public?
No.
Okay. Then I will go ahead and move forward with a formal vote. Kyle.
Aye.
Okay, I'm second. I vote aye. Lorraine.
Aye.
Thank you. Myra.
Aye.
Thank you. Daryl.
Aye.
Thank you. Cormac.
Aye.
Thank you. Brooke.
Aye.
Thank you. Where's 8? Alexis.
Aye.
Thank you. And Jenny.
Aye.
Okay, so moved. Thanks, y'all. That's a big one. Good job, everyone.
So can I just quickly highlight, just because Bonita had messaged, and also just as our final announcements, wanted to make sure that pub members knew if they had any feedback on the annual report document that was sent out and is going to be presented to council, to that if pub members have any feedback, to return it by end of day Monday, so that we can make sure that any changes can be incorporated in time for their final submission, and that they welcome any testimony if folks are wishing to come and provide testimony when it goes to council. And very quickly, we'll send out additional information about citywide hiring freeze. Financial information, budget related, is still looking significant. And so the city has an across the board hiring freeze. There is an exception process. And so bureaus like the utilities will have to make sure that they're in compliance or get exceptions to proceed with hires for any urgent positions.
Amy, can I ask a really quick question? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Is that true for the One Water director?
I assume that the One Water is proceeding and that it would fall into the category of it needs to proceed, but I'm not positive because every decision needs to kind of go through their process. So I'm assuming that will be the case. We certainly will find out by the leadership meeting that we have later this month and share whatever information we hear from that team as far as next steps, and you know, maybe plan when there's a conversation in a future agenda meeting for what the impacts are to the bureaus as far as juggling the workload, or whether they're able to proceed for things that are directly kind of mission critical and funded by rates. So obviously the biggest concern is general fund related, but since the impact is on everybody, they're you know, paying attention to the impact on ratepayers as well. So
great, thanks.
And I think those were the only urgent, time sensitive items. We have a number of things already potentially slated for upcoming meetings, and then we will kind of figure out what other emerging priorities there may be. So if there's anything that folks want to make sure makes it onto that list or is part of the leadership team discussion, please reach out to pub staff in the next week.
Thanks, Amy. Yeah, I would like to echo that and highlight that leadership team meeting. It's a very good opportunity for some kind of one-on-one with us and leadership. So if you have any input for what we would like to discuss, please let them know. Okay, and our next meetings be back October 7th and then the 16th. And with that, I think we can adjourn. Thanks for